Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 240, your weekly little get-together where we talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David.
Tonight, David, every single new release comes out this week. We have the big consoles out, we have all the ports of the consoles, we have some of the exclusive games for them, and of course, other big games as well. We have more stuff getting delayed, some of it because of the Cyberpunk delay in itself, others for other reasons, and of course... the worst kept secret in all of gaming history right now, the Mass Effect Legacy Collection has finally been announced. But first,
I want everyone to say, well, we've summed it up. That's been GamePoints. We'll see.
But first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching here live at Twitch TV/GamePoints or later over at YouTube.com/GamePointsPC, feel free to join in the conversation with whatever questions, comments, concerns, etc. you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. David, this is the point where I normally ask you how your weekend went, but we actually have kind of a full show, so I'm just going to go ahead and get right into the first topic here. And that's
you know what that means, though, right? We're going to go too fast. We're going to end it early. That's
hey,
what
I'm fine with that. I'm fine if we end this early. The new consoles come out this week. Both the PlayStation 5 will be out later this week. The Xbox Series S and X came out today.
Of course, that doesn't mean anything, because most people that want either one of those is not going to get one.
Yes. In fact, let's go ahead and I have this little new console pile of stories here. Let's actually jump down to the Xbox one that deals with that. The first one I want to talk about is some Amazon Series X pre-orders may not arrive until December. And this is via gamesindustry.biz. Today, several Twitter users have shared an email sent by Amazon in the past day or so concerning their pre-order, indicating that the retail giant may be low on stock. We expect to ship your console in the coming weeks as we receive more inventory in November and December, one of the messages shared on Twitter read. At this time, we anticipate that you will receive your Xbox Series X by December 31st or before. Amazon helped reply to the message and to many others complaining about the same thing on Twitter, saying that this is due to high demand for the console and repeating that inventory is due to continue to arrive throughout November and December. The extent of the issue and how many customers are impacted is unclear at this point, but it does not seem to be impacting the Series S, the digital one. No,
so
the
fun
Series
fact,
S isn't the digital one, is it? I don't know the Series X.
Hopefully you got an Xbox Series X from anywhere but Amazon, because I don't know of any other retailer that's having this problem. And this is a just classic case of them overselling, because they probably knew how many they were going to get and they overdid their pre-orders. And now they're telling people it's way the hell too late to try and get one of these things.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Because these emails came out this last weekend. Like, hey, by the way, your system's not going to come out for a month.
It's literally the Seinfeld joke where they know how to take the reservation but not hold the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And this shit is just infuriating. Amazon, to their credit, can't, or I don't want to say to their credit, Amazon can throw their weight around because they are Amazon. They probably did that thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to play with low numbers just so we can kind of keep track of them rather than going millions. We have 1,000 pre-orders. We're getting 1,100 copies. Let's pre-order 1,500 of them. And since we're Amazon, we could probably milk Microsoft for more. And the Microsoft went, no, you're getting 1,200. And then people just have to eat shit. I'm using deliberately low numbers to keep the scale more
easy
understandable.
Math. We're not here for complicated math.
And that's what I have to assume that happens. And I think Amazon either way doesn't care, because they're just like, okay, fine, cancel. We don't lose anything.
Yeah, doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the reasons why I've actively stopped pre-ordering anything from Amazon. Now, I do use Amazon for a lot of things, but when it comes to pre-orders specifically, and I don't mean like on games, but I just mean in anything in general, books, video equipment, anything like that, I just go, nope, I'm getting it from somewhere else, because Amazon has a history of this shit.
Mm-hmm. I know someone who ordered the new Xbox from Walmart, got it today. I know another person who ordered an Xbox from Amazon and might get it by the end of the week, which is still better than a lot of people.
Right. The fact that they're giving the nebulous December 31st date, though, is real. I'd be very concerned.
Yep.
If that was the case. So sucks to be you if you ordered the Series X on Amazon. Once again, important to note, it seems to be only specifically the Series X, not the Series S.
I mean, I'm fairly positive that I could go to the store and buy a Series S right now, honestly. I doubt they're sold out anywhere.
Probably. I couldn't say for certain. By no means do I know that for sure. Was Series S, that wasn't just, was it Is that the all digital one, or is there's like another all digital version?
What? No, there's only two. So don't try and make it more complicated than it already is.
I'm so fried because one between the two consoles, neither one of us is getting a Series S or X because we have computers.
Yeah, basically.
And Microsoft will put everything on PC. That's just the long and the short of it. That's just how we're both PC gamers. So I haven't been keeping tabs on what's in the Series S and X as much as I have, say, the PlayStation 5. So I'm a little bit weaker in the Microsoft consoles and the PlayStation ones. So I couldn't remember if it was the S, if the S was only digital or if it also had a hard drive or not. I'm also asking a question. Is the S only digital or does it have a hard drive?
Oh, what? It has a hard drive. What the hell?
Not hard drive. Fuck, disk drive. Sorry.
I was like, I couldn't process what you were asking me because it was too stupid.
Yeah, it was. That was stupid. I'm sorry. I meant disk drive.
No. As far as we are aware, the Series S is the low spec version of the Xbox that doesn't have a disk drive. It's the same digital box we always expect.
I could not remember if it had a disk drive.
But then it also has a tiny hard drive. And you're probably going to need expandable storage, and the expandable storage is almost as much as the damn thing costs in the first place.
It's $220 if I recall. And the reason why I was thinking hard drive is because $220 is at least still something you can buy on, unlike the PlayStation 5, which case you want an expandable hard drive, you're just fucked for right now.
That's true.
Let me move on to the next story as well. Here from The Verge. Sony confirms the PlayStation 5 won't support SSD storage expansion at launch.
Correct.
So let me read the article here, and then I'll ask my questions because I don't understand this move. Sony has I kind of do, but let me get into it. Sony has confirmed to The Verge that you will not be able to expand the blazing fast SSD storage on day one. While the PlayStation 5 features a dedicated internal slot that can theoretically fit the standard stick-shaped M.2 SSD and an easy way to access it, the slot will apparently be disabled out the box. This is reserved for a future update, Sony tells The Verge. What's the holdup? Well, as Mark Cerny, by the way, Mark Cerny, one of the big tech guys at Sony, explained, not all M.2 SSDs are fast enough to keep up with the PlayStation 5, thin enough to fit into the SSD bay, or compatible with Sony's I.O. controller, and Sony promised to do compatibility testing later this year to make sure. Okay, couple questions out of the gate. One, why have this disabled even if stuff on the market doesn't work? You just tell people, hey, this doesn't work, and it's up to them. I got a big thing about consumers making that, not consumers, people who are selling things, manufacturers making those decisions for people to begin with. I would say just turn it on and go, hey, beware.
People are too stupid to read. That one is actually an easy one to me. Okay. If they had the space available for a hard drive and people started plugging in off-the-shelf M.2 drives, like a random Samsung or something like that, and it didn't meet the specs that the PS5 wanted, and all of a sudden they tried to install games and it didn't work, we would be talking about nothing but articles of people yelling at Sony saying that the storage expansion drive doesn't actually work. By disabling it and saying, hey, we are going to have a specific list that you can use, but we haven't gotten through all of our testing, which most likely means that it's the upcoming drives that aren't quite out yet are the ones you're going to need. They just disabled it out of the gate, because anyone that, if I go on Amazon or go to Best Buy and say, hey, I need an M.2, I doubt they're going to sell me the one that the PS5 is going to use.
That's my next question. Is it the case where the M.2 drives that are needed aren't really commercially available yet?
As far as I know, the only one that has been talked about is that Samsung supposedly has a drive that is fast enough on paper, if you're just looking at all the numbers, and I'm not trying to get into the weeds on this, but numbers-wise, Samsung's making a drive that is supposed to be fast enough, but I don't know if you can even buy it right now.
So I guess my question then becomes, what is the price of it?
And it's pretty close to the Xbox price. I think it's like
about 220,
230, something like that.
Yeah, I remember this conversation. We were trying to break down some of the pros and cons from the systems. And I remember us both saying that the cheapest expandable storage is probably about $250.
But I think it's the PCIe 4 is supposed to be the fancy one. And then so other ones are getting cheaper, and it's like a whole big thing. I
guess then why doesn't, because this isn't still going to, if they're relying on people's inability to read, disabling the hard drive, the ability to use a hard drive isn't going to keep people from buying it then in that case, because they're not going to read that either. Is it to alleviate liability?
Then they'll plug it in, and they'll probably get a warning message on the PlayStation itself saying this feature is disabled or something.
Maybe. It's just this having it disabled out the box just doesn't quite make sense to me.
I think it's they're damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of thing.
Yeah,
no matter how they played this, the long and short of it is they didn't have enough time to finish their testing for the M.2s that they needed, or they didn't actually have the ones they needed come out in time.
That's the one that I'm leaning a little bit more toward.
They're relying on third parties to make these because they're not making their own, and they didn't do the Microsoft thing where they didn't partner with one specific company and make a proprietary one, which has pros and cons, right?
Right.
Pro of the Microsoft strategy is they have one available that you can buy right the hell now. We know how much it costs, but it's probably not ever going to get any cheaper. The Sony advantage is these are going to be expensive. We don't know when they're coming out, but at some point, this is going to be a common, regular PC-grade hard drive that any PC can use, or any that use newer motherboards rather. So the price should drive down at some point.
Correct, which is weird from Sony because Sony is the king of proprietary shit. It seems like with this specifically is just weird for them.
Remember the Pro Duo?
Yes. However, while on the topic of storage memory, there are some big issues people are discovering with their PlayStation 5 storage capability specifically. One, PlayStation 5 is only going to actually have 667.2 gigabytes of usable storage space.
Yep.
So already gimped out the gate. I think they were advertising 850. I can't quite remember what they were saying. But
that 850 is what the size of the drive was, and now we know that it's allocating that much.
Essentially 650 gigabytes. But
one of the launch games is 180 gigs. So
yeah. The bigger problems, however, that I'm seeing is that the PlayStation 5 is not going to do things like let you use USB transfer saves or let you put PS5 games on an external hard drive to begin with. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the Series S and the Series X, they will let you put a Xbox game on the external hard drive for archive reasons, and then when you play it, it shuffles it over to the internal drive itself. So if you have like a data cap or something like that, that's a good way to let you store your shit without having to re-download 150 gigs of stuff.
Yeah, you can get like a 4 terabyte drive and then just keep all your games on there and then just transfer them as you need them so you're not constantly downloading stuff.
The PlayStation 5 is not letting you do that.
Nope.
So not only do you have let's call it what it is, half a terabyte hard drive minus plus 150 gigs. But they don't have the expandable drives ready to go for it. Even if you have one of those expandable drives, you can't put the games on that expandable drive. So why have the expandable drive slot to begin with? And if you're thinking of transferring your saves...
Whoa, no, hold on. Just to clarify that point.
Okay.
It's not that the expandable drives won't work to put your games on. It's specifically that USB drives will not allow you to put your saves or put your games on.
Ah, okay.
Key difference being that when they do turn on the M2 port, you will be able to put games on that.
Major difference. Thank you for clarifying that. That's why.
Otherwise, then there's no expansion at all for this.
That's why I was confused. That's why when I started this entire thing, just mean shit wasn't making sense to me.
If you get a generic USB hub hard drive, you can plug that into an Xbox and you can transfer your games to it, and it won't run the games from that drive, but it'll allow you to swap them onto the main drive when you want to play them. The PlayStation will not do that. You cannot put the games on that drive in any way.
However, the only way to transfer saves from console to console is if you buy the PlayStation Plus and use their cloud saving shit. So you don't get to physically do it. Will's Corner, welcome to chat. He's asking, but can you use a micro SD card like in the Switch? From what I understand, saves don't transfer from Switch to Switch either. You have to use like cloud storage or something. I'm not positive. I've never tried it myself.
There's a way to do it, but you have to like transfer the Nintendo account. Because I've done it once. It's like kind of a pain in the butt, but it is doable. But there is no SD card on the PS5.
It's unnecessarily complex when it comes to just moving save files.
Basically, if you don't have a PS Plus account, you can't transfer your saves.
It's designed to drive PS Plus sales. I think that's bullshit. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to mention about the new consoles coming up this week? Not particularly. David, is there anything that you want to add about the upcoming consoles or anyone who else happens to be watching? What are your 2 cents? I think
they are huge.
Yes.
Huge. I still haven't seen one in person.
The PlayStation 5 is ridiculous big. I've seen it in person. I should be getting mine in later this week, early next.
Yeah, I'll have to come look at that thing because every picture I've seen online, it's just so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's so horrendously ugly. I
Yeah, I
have
hate the way it looks.
zero interest in buying a launch PS5 because of the fact that while I would probably enjoy playing games on it, I don't have any room for that thing next
Yeah,
to my TV.
it's god awful ugly. I will
I
be
would have to
getting
put
Demon
it.
Souls, however. So
I would have to put it on the floor, and I don't know. I'm gonna wait 2 years and buy the smaller, cheaper one when
I don't
eventually
know
there's
how
a smaller,
heavy
cheaper
it
one.
is. I'm curious to know how heavy it actually is compared to other consoles. I know its size. I've seen it personally, but I don't know its weight. Are you looking that up right now?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, look that up. While I
About 10
talk
pounds.
about 10 pounds. I wonder how much that
About
weighs.
10 pounds.
Wonder how much that weighs compared to a PS4.
PS4 is 6 pounds.
Okay, that is a significant increase in weight.
Yep.
I have one more story that I want to talk about before we move on from the new consoles, unless you have something else you want to add.
Oh,
And
I was just going to say the Series X is also about 10 pounds. So both
okay.
the next gen systems are big honking boys.
I will say I kind of like the way the Series X looks. I like the idea of just black obelisk. That has
I
style to
guess
me.
if you're going to have it standing up,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I know I would have it standing up. I wouldn't have it sitting
I
down.
don't want any of my electronics standing up like that. I want things to lay down and fit into a traditional entertainment center, right?
Well, that's not going to
Every
happen,
entertainment
David.
center made since the dawn of time is the one that's big enough for like a VCR or a DVD player or a Blu-ray player, right? It's like wide, narrow shelves. Make a console that fits, guys.
That's old. That's old. That's an old way of thinking. Oh,
I disagree.
one thing I want to mention before I actually get to this last story involving the console was here is that whereas Amazon has screwed over people for the PlayStation 5, or rather the Xbox Series X, I have heard Walmart drop the ball on PlayStation 5s.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's only additional evidence right now. I saw a couple people. I saw this idea gaining traction on Twitter about an hour before we went live. So it sounds like there could be some issues with Walmart and PlayStation 5s as well. Finally, the last bit of information on the next gen console stuff that I have going into it is that sounds like Microsoft is trying. Remember how we've been saying Microsoft is making all these very aggressive moves while Sony's just kind of sitting back because they think they're going to win. Microsoft is trying to break into the Japanese market again.
I mean, they haven't they been trying to do that this whole time though?
Not really. They tried to do a push for it when the original Xbox came out, but it did not do too well in Japan. So they've kind of, I don't want to say ceded the ground to Sony in Japan, but it really hasn't been their focus. But this article here from Bloomberg titled "Microsoft Sets Its Sights on Sony's Home Turf and Console Clash," and I do recommend y'all take a look at it. It's a pretty long article, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. It's talking about how Microsoft is actively trying to work with Japanese developers while Sony is pulling away from Japan. Sony in 2016 moved their PlayStation headquarters in Japan to not San Francisco, but San Francisco area, essentially somewhere in the United States. God damn, what city are they set up in?
Not San Jose. Santa Clara?
It's right south of San Francisco, and I can't think of it. It's blanking on me right now. I've been there. It's a nice campus. But Microsoft is seeing weakness there, and they're going for Japan again. And they're teaming up people like Koei Tecmo and etc.
San Mateo.
San Mateo, thank you. I could not think of that.
It was going to bug me, so I had to look it up.
Thank you. Take a look at this article. It talks about how various investors think Microsoft is making inroads into Japan, whereas half the investors are split between whether or not Sony is actually ceding ground there or not. It's kind of an interesting look from a bunch of Japanese business talking heads on Microsoft's strategy into getting in there. So I would say take a look at that.
What's funny is the fact that both the new systems are completely giant. I think works against both of them in that space.
Yeah, its smallness is valued.
And that if anything, the Series S actually has a legit shot of being popular in Japan.
I think
just because it's so much smaller than the
other think more than anything else, this shows that Microsoft is trying to hit the ground running on this generation console, because the last Xbox, the last big, not the 360, the Xbox One X, thank you. Their naming convention is so stupid. I have a hard time keeping track of it when I worked retail. That's a bad sign. The Xbox One X, I don't think was released in Japan until like a year to a year and a half after it actually launched.
Oh yeah. Side note: how many kids that were lucky enough to get a Series X or S are going to get an Xbox One controller for their second controller at Christmas time?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. Or there's going to be people who are hoping for a Series S or X are going to get an Xbox One because, hey, this was $200. Or someone's like, here's the brand new Xbox, $200 sent on like Farmer's Market or something like that, and they buy it there. So, yeah, that's going to be a problem for certain. At least the PlayStation 5 is called the PlayStation 5. It is the fifth one. It is an easy naming convention. And for the love of fucking Christ, Microsoft and Square, while we're at it, name your shit in an order that makes sense. Please. I am begging you. Stop trying to be clever. Just number them.
Right?
And when you start numbering them, don't do the fucking Call of Duty thing where you start calling it like Black Ops 4, Black Ops 5, and then you start doing Roman numerals, but they're not actually Roman numerals. And you just go, rather than V1, you go 1111 and 11111 rather than a fucking V for 5. Jesus Christ. Stop trying to be fucking clever with this shit.
That's fine.
Dave, why don't you go ahead and take over? We do have some delays coming up because of the insanity, however.
So another game that has been hit with the, I guess we can just call it the official Cyberpunk Fallout, right?
Yeah.
Is The Medium, which is the new Bloober Team game, which I'm sure you were looking forward to.
Love Bloober Team.
You're a Bloober fan.
Love Layers of Fear. They did Observer, which I think was like Rutger Hauer's last project ever before he died. I think they recently did the most recent Blair Witch game. They specialize in these, to use for derogatory term, but I don't say it that way, the walking simulator, but always with a horror tint to it. I love their games.
They got a cool thing going on. So anyway, they had a tweet that came out recently, which I'll read for you. After much careful thought and consideration, today we have made the difficult decision to delay the launch of The Medium to January 28th, 2021. It wasn't an easy choice to make, but one made due to the COVID-19 situation in Poland, as well as the current schedule of other games on the market. I was there for emphasis. Bloober Team remains committed to delivering our biggest, most ambitious, fear-inducing experience to date. The additional development time will allow us to add further polish, ensuring we deliver our innovative, genre-pushing vision of interactive psychological horror. Rest assured, the delay will not stop us sharing information with you, and you can expect us to unravel a few more layers of the medium's great mystery soon.
I love it that more and more of these companies are essentially coming out, and in one case, they straight up said, hey, it's idiocy to launch against Cyberpunk. But
I think that was the Everspace release, right?
Yeah,
like, sorry, guys, we're competing with those guys.
It would be suicide to launch against arguably the biggest game of this generation, and they're right. Medium guys, Bloober Team, more or less say the same thing here. They're like, hey, COVID, but really this giant thing coming out. And I love it. I want this transparency. I want people to say, hey, we're delaying to this. Here is exactly why.
I mean, I'm still the opinion, like, I like them calling it out like that, but come on, guys, you don't need to move every damn December video game because of Cyberpunk, because guess what? Cyberpunk is a full price video game. Like the $20, $30 game.
I think the Medium is also going to be full price when it comes out.
Is it a $60 game?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. It's got Bloober Team has made a big enough name for itself amongst the horror circles to charge $60, and this one also has some Microsoft backing behind it. It was at the Microsoft Games Showcase when they were showing stuff up there, and it's got the guy who did the music to Silent Hill attached to it as well.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
It sounds cool. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to this. Wilson's Corner brings up a good point. 2 words: Titanfall.
Okay. I will allow that as a game that was destroyed by its launch window. However, that game launched between its 2 largest genre competitors.
One of which was from the same fucking publisher.
Yeah, because EA put out fucking the new Battlefield and Titanfall, and then Activision put out the new Call of Duty. And while Titanfall 2 was absolutely the best game of those 3, hands down, it was just destroyed because all the Call of Duty guys got Call of Duty, all the Battlefield kids got Battlefield, and Titanfall was just left out to dry. Which sucks, because those other 2 games were not near as good as Titanfall 2. And we'll probably never get a Titanfall 3 because Battle Royales exist and Apex Legends makes a lot more money.
Now, one thing I want to mention before we move on to the next delay here. I have gone on multiple rants of late about when you give a release date, you fucking hit it. But in cases of unexpected shit coming up, like COVID or like Cyberpunk getting delayed onto your launch date, those are understandable. My ire comes from when you say, oh yeah, we're pretty sure it's this date, and then you go, well, we didn't plan enough time ahead. No. That's, and you're lying to your investors at that point. Allegedly lying to your investors at that point. But when you're like, hey, this is exactly why we're moving it, and it is because of Cyberpunk, and not, well, we're having to delay it because we fucking mismanaged time and we fucking did something stupid. That's what I'm pissed off about. Getting the fuck out of
what's
the
funny
way
is some of these games could be a problem of mismanaged time, and they're just blaming Cyberpunk anyway because it's convenient.
In the absence of evidence, I will err on the side of the story as opposed to just trying to make something up.
Right, that's fair.
Unless there is a history of it.
Another game that's been shoved, that's not necessarily Cyberpunk hit because it was not coming out near Cyberpunk anyway. Kerbal Space Program 2 has been pushed all the way to 2022. And a blog post from Kerbal Space creative director Nate Simpson, gonna rip the band-aid off fast here. Kerbal Space Program 2 will release in 2022 instead of fall 2021. I know this is frustrating, especially considering that this is the first time we've adjusted our schedule. He goes on a little bit and mentions it's not enough to deliver a bunch of new features. Those features have to be woven together into a stable, polished whole. We're creating a reliable foundation on which players and modders alike can build for another decade or more. That means solving problems that we've never solved before, and that takes time.
Another delay I'm fine with because of how they worded it. They never said it's coming out
They never said this game comes out September 1st, 2021.
Yeah.
They
said
fall next year.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome.
Also, this game is already far enough out that I don't mind it getting pushed a little bit.
There is something to be said about that as well. It's odd to hear a game that's a year out from its original release getting delayed to another year. I can't think of anything that was like, hey, this game's a year from now, but we're still delaying it anyways. I can't think of anything off that mind. I know it's happened.
To me, that almost feels more reliable, right? Yeah. They're a year out, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna need at least another 3 to 6 months for that game.
Yeah, that there's seems to be something about that seems far more agreeable, and I'm fine with this too. Did you ever play Kerbal?
No, I've seen it a lot, and I always kind of wanted to play it, but I never actually got into it.
It's one of those games I want to try, but I really don't have a desire to play. I don't know if that makes sense.
I want to play it, but I'm worried that I would just play it forever, and I'd put tons of hours in it, and I barely have time as it is.
Fair enough. There's the potential to have a satisfactory.
9 years old.
Is it
PSP
really?
Is 9 years old. Came out in 2011.
No.
Yeah. So it's going to be an 11-year break between the first one and the second one.
God damn. That's a long time. While talking about old games, David, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here. And this was the least kept secret in video game industry for months. We all knew this was coming. It was telegraphed repeatedly. Supposedly it was supposed to be announced a few months ago, but because of issues with the first game, it got delayed. And then, over the weekend, we had the official announcement of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. This is essentially going to be the remastering of the first 3 Mass Effect games, Get Fucked Andromeda. Let's move on to the official blog post from BioWare. Our goal was not to remake or reimagine the original games, but to modernize the experience so that fans and new players can experience the original work in its best possible form. It's been amazing to see the adventures of Commander Shepard take on new life in super sharp resolution, faster frame rates, and beautiful visual enhancements. Mass Effect Legendary Edition will include single-player DLC and base content and DLC. Mass Effect Legendary Edition will include single-player-based content and DLC from Mass Effect, Mass Effect 2, and Mass Effect 3, plus weapon promos, armors, and packs, all remastered and optimized for 4K Ultra HD. It'll be available spring 2021 for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, with forward compatibility and targeted enhancements on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. Pausing right here, because the second part's also important too. They're not going to be changing the games at all. This is not going to be like a Resident Evil 2 or 3 remake or anything like that.
This isn't Final Fantasy 7.
and this isn't Final Fantasy VII. The question is this just going to be a 4K upres, or are they actually going to make new environments for stuff while keeping the core of the game intact? Where does the line between the base remaster and the remake
let's really think about it, right? BioWare is putting it together, and who owns BioWare?
Yeah, I tend to lean on the fact that it's just going to be a 4K upgrade.
I wonder what kind of history they have with giving people what they want, as opposed to trying to make money in the cheapest and most effective way possible.
With a studio that's already had 2 flops back-to-back and is desperately in need of a hit and some kind of goodwill.
As much as I hope that this game is fucking amazing, and I actually really, really want this to be just
the Mass Effect trilogy is one of the greatest video game trilogies of all time.
I want this to be everything we imagine it to be, right? Where it's just completely beautiful and it runs amazing and it's like bug free and it's like the cleanest, best possible version of all 3 of these video games. But I am terrified of the EA of it all.
Right.
Chat's hoping. So hopelessly worried that we're gonna get just a quick cash grab. I mean, it's not that quick because it's a year out, right? We're not getting it soon. We're getting it in 6 months ish.
Yep.
But I don't know. I'm still really stressed about it.
Chat mentions they hope it's going to be like Halo Anniversary, which I think would be the best possible result. Where, like, did you ever play Halo Anniversary Collection? The first Halo game, the way it works is, if you're playing that game, it has all new textures in it. Everything looks better. The light rays are more. Everything graphically looks better, and it's more than just an upres. But at the press of a button, you can go back to the way it looked. Like, for example, if did you ever play something like PUBG or anything with heavy foliage, where you can kind of adjust how much foliage shows on the screen at once? So imagine the difference in Halo between the remake and the original, where the remake would have the foliage up all the way, and then the original would have it turned down all the way. It looks dramatically different, but it's still the same game.
Okay.
I would like to see something like that, where you tighten up the controls to Mass Effect 1, give it a more than just a 4K upres, but actually improve the textures and the backgrounds and the way the game controls.
See, now here's my worry on that part. Right. Well, I hope for, and please, BioWare, make me wrong. Right. Don't let any of my predictions come true. I'm just a pessimist, and I'm an asshole, and I'm always grumpy. But I'm worried that we are going to get just a general upres and some texture fixes. And it's kind of a strange reason, but they mentioned it's coming out next year for Xbox One and PS4, with forward compatibility targets for Series X and PS5. So to me, that doesn't mean that they're going to do a lot of enhancements.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking of. They'll increase load times, especially on Mass Effect 1. Or they'll decrease, rather, load time, especially on Mass Effect 1, which was infamous for its elevator scenes.
But, like, what I would want is this game to come out with 4K textures and an unlocked frame rate, right? So it plays at 60 FPS on PS5 and Series X, but there's the launch PS4 of it all.
Yeah, and the thing is, Mass Effect 2 and 3, by the way,
Xbox 360 and PS3 games, right? So they can definitely look better on a PS4, because when the Last of Us remaster hit, that looks so much better than the PS3 one. It's there, it's possible. This can still be great. I'm just, sometimes I hate my brain.
Mass Effect 2 and 3, by the way, still look amazing, in my opinion. I could play those today, no problem whatsoever. They look amazing still.
It's just the first one we're all worried about, right?
That first one, I am really concerned that they're just going to upres it to 4K and call it a day, with maybe improved load times. And I don't want that. I don't want them to fuck with the gameplay to it. I want them to give me, like, new textures and backgrounds. And what really is concerning to me is that they showed this, like, quick trailer for it with no gameplay at all whatsoever. It was just all the characters kind of standing around and looking at the camera. So, a game that's supposed to be out spring 2021. So, let's say no later than 6 months, because financial quarter shit works really weird. A game that's less than 6 months out, and we didn't get to see a single comparison shot from what they're releasing compared to what's coming. And I'm really concerned that all this is going to be is a 4K upres to it. And I don't want a remake, but I do want some time and effort put in, especially into the first one.
I just want it to look as good as Destiny.
Also, don't expect any multiplayer in this. I know Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda had multiplayer to it. I see Wilson's Corner and Chance mentioning that. They straight up say, we'll include single-player-based content and DLC. No multiplayer. They're not going to turn the servers back on.
Well, they do mention they're in the early stages of the project, and they don't want to say any more.
Well, they mentioned they're in the early stages of the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe as well.
That's right.
So they're coming out and saying, hey, we got more Mass Effect coming. Notice they're not saying what it is because two things. One, as I alluded to earlier, Andromeda can get fucked. They're going to pretend that game doesn't exist. Just flat. You will never hear anything from the Andromeda universe ever again. You will never know what happened to the Quarian ship. The big bad, that trilogy that they're setting up will never be concluded. They'll go back and do something like probably like the First Contact or something like that. Two, you cannot convince me otherwise that it's not 100% all hands on deck for Dragon Age 4. That is why Anthem has a skeleton crew maintaining it. That is why whatever they're doing for Anthem next hasn't gotten any play at all. And I can almost promise you that if you are working at BioWare, you are freaking the hell out because you know how EA is with studios, and you know that if Dragon Age 4 isn't fucking 10 out of 10, 20 million copies sold, gold star, BioWare is back again. If it's another flop, BioWare is done. They will shut that studio down like that. I know EA will. I know they will. So they're going to tease that they have stuff coming up, but they, for the most part, I guarantee you all they have is one concept art shot and go, hey, we're going to do something for the Mass Effect universe eventually. But we're focused on BioWare 4, BioWare 4, Dragon Age 4, real hard right now. And if I was someone that worked at BioWare, I would be really concerned about my job if I even thought for a second Dragon Age 4 was not going to be a hit. Let's see. Turning back to chat. Speaking of Destiny, there's an updated spruced up. The new update spruced up the graphics, so I guess we got Destiny 2 remaster before a Mass Effect remaster. Introspect, good to see you, by the way, says they'd love to see another Jade Empire. I would love to see another Jade Empire too, but you'll never get it. It would have to conform to the Chinese government standards of cultural and ideological purity, and you will never see that happen because it would not be Jade Empire anymore at that point. That just EA won't touch it. They will never go back to Jade Empire. Additionally, if you try making Jade Empire today, you'll probably have I don't want to get into it. I was going to go on a rant. I don't feel like going on a rant.
Can we just get another KOTOR?
I would love another Knights of the Old Republic, and now that... never mind. I was about to go somewhere with that, too, and it turns out I was wrong.
I guess we just have to wait and see if BioWare can figure out the Frostbite engine. Because no matter what they're going to try and do next, right? We know for sure that EA is going to force them to use Frostbite.
They'll master it just in time for the Frostbite 2.
Right?
However, Apex Legends does not run on Frostbite. It runs on Unreal.
Yep.
So they are willing to bend that rule. But
for Respawn.
I was going to say, I think Respawn is the exception to that rule. I don't think anyone else gets to do that. Lead us away, David, to the next topic here.
All right. The future of Friday the 13th, the game. In blog posts are popular. Well, how about another blog post from the community developer for Friday the 13th, Matt Schatzscha. So in November, later this month, Friday the 13th will be decommissioning their dedicated servers in an upcoming patch. So the game is going to revert back into peer-to-peer based matchmaking for quick play lobbies. The database servers will stay active and continue to house all player progression and unlocks, so users can continue to play Friday the 13th of the game via peer-to-peer quick play and private matches. The patch that will go live in November will also be the final patch for Friday the 13th of the game. I need to stop saying that the whole time. It drives me crazy. The team has been hard at work completing fixes for a long list of player issues to include in that final patch, and the community can expect finalized patch notes to be released in the week prior to the patch going live. The official forums will be archived in a locked state so that players can still reference the information that lives on the various boards. As for the online presence of the game and official channels, we'll be switching to a more minimal approach, keeping our social media channels active for only necessary announcements. The game will continue to be available for sale, and as such will continue to receive the full support of jasonkillsbugs.com as a resource for troubleshooting. Please do continue to use the support site for any assistance needed.
So, what do you know about this game, first of all, David?
I know that Friday the 13th was announced at a similar time to Dead by Daylight, when asymmetrical multiplayer games were becoming kind of a hit, and Dead by Daylight beat it to the punch, and then decided to be the better game of the two.
And is now having a new killer actually coming out, announced today. They're still
dude. You can play as like the girl from Silent Hill in that game. There's so much stuff in that game, and it's a bummer because I know that this game was announced first. I'm pretty sure.
Do you know the story of what actually fucked this game? Because the main reason why I brought this up isn't because we talk about Friday the 13th all the time, and we mentioned it a couple times in the past. It isn't even because it's shutting down. It's because the story behind this game is fucking tragic. Do you know of the lawsuit situation with Friday the 13th?
I'm sure we talked about it.
Okay, so this game, and I could be wrong, I only have a passing knowledge of this, so forgive me if I'm mistaken. Friday the 13th, the game, came out. They're making new content for it. They're going like, oh shit, we're going to have like the Jason 10 map, which is the Jason space thing. We're going to have the space station. And we're going to have all this extra stuff in here. And we're going to make all this new content. And then what happened was, and once again, I don't have the exact details down, so forgive me because I'm not an expert on this. The screenwriter for Friday the 13th sued the director for Friday the 13th over ownership of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happened, anything involving the franchise immediately had to stop, which is why you haven't had any new Jason movie, which is why you don't see him in any promotions, which is why he hasn't been making appearances in any video games, despite him having this one right here. Everything from the top down got put on hold. No one could do anything about it. And this dispute has been going on for like over 4 years now, including up to now. It still has not resolved. So I appreciate chat's Sith Lord GamePoint us. Have I ever told you the tragedy of Friday the 13th again? I appreciate that. So, since this lawsuit's going out, the developers have openly said, we can't do anything with the game. We can't even change like the texture of a rock in this game.
I looked it up really quick so I can kind of catch up to you. But basically, the copyright fight was going on, and what had happened is, since the game had already been made and launched before the lawsuit happened, they still had access to the rights when the game was launched. So it was able to launch fine and be sold as is.
Yes, but they can't add any new anything.
So all the like add-ons and DLC and everything else they were working on for the game had to be stopped completely.
And a game like this lives and dies by its content keeping on coming in.
Exactly, and that's the thing of, at this point, Dead by Daylight, which is this game's most direct competitor, has 30 different survivors and 14 different killers and all these different modes and all these different levels. And this game is kind of the same game that it's been for the last 2 years, however long it's been out.
Yeah. They can't update it. They can't other than like bug fixes, but they can't change. They like I was reading some from the developer. They said they literally cannot even change the placement of like a rock unless it fundamentally is breaking the game because of this goddamn lawsuit. And they can't keep making content. They can't keep supporting a game where this lawsuit is going into like, I literally think year 3 or 4 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just keep putting it, because if the screenwriter wins the lawsuit, they lose all money for this because the IP gets pulled, but all the money for the IP also goes with it. So they would have put in years of their life trying to work this game, hoping for a payout, only to lose it all if a judge decides to side with one side or the other. Yeah, so
it's crazy.
It's frustrating because this game does look fun. It looks like a party game to me where I want to get like 8 people together and just fuck around on it. And right. I love how it does. I was watching a couple of people play this on Twitch. From what I gather, no one actually picks Jason. It's randomly assigned. So you pick what counselor you're going to be, And then when the match starts, Jason randomly kills someone out the gate. And if he kills you, you get to play as Jason.
See, that's kind of a neat way to do it.
Yeah,
because
it randomizes who's Jason. So you'll pick a counselor, and you'll pick what Jason skin you want.
And we've talked about how I like a lot of these asymmetrical multiplayer games. I think they're pretty fun. But you do have people that, they only queue up to play the bad guy.
Yeah.
They only play the shark in depth, right? So they play it all the time, and they're really flipping good at it. But if it forces you to kind of play a little bit of both, to me, I think that makes the game more interesting.
And it does everything right. There are multiple ways to get out. You can get on a boat, you can drive the car, you can have the cops. But there's also like this really convoluted path to actually kill Jason in the game. And you have to do things in such a specific order. No one seems to do it. But it involves like a female counselor has to go into his shack to dress up like his mom and convince Jason, oh, his mom's talking to me. And then you have to call in Corey Feldman's character to come in, and he has to actually be wielding specifically an axe while Jason's distracted. Like, you have to do it in the exact way that happened in one of the movies, and that's the only way you can kill him. Now, it's contrived as hell, but the fact that it's in here is it. You could tell that these guys loved the franchise. It's like that new Terminator game, Terminator Resistance. It's a B-tier Terminator game. It's like THQ level quality. But you could tell those people really, really know that franchise really well. And that game shows for it. That game, despite being a B to C tier game, is actually good for what it is. Same with this. And it sucks that because of a fucking legal dispute after 20 or 30 years, when the guy who created the franchise, who sold the rights off, decided, I kind of want some of that Jason money. It's the same thing that happened with The Witcher.
Well, no. Just keep in mind, they specifically don't get the Jason money, because I double-checked this part. The license in the issue is Friday the 13th. Who owns Jason is like a whole other problem. Because keep in mind that Jason was added to Mortal Kombat. And that happened like after all of this happened.
It's... The game is being fucked because of a legal fight that the developers aren't even involved with.
Yeah, it sucks.
And it sucks. And I hate that. And I feel really bad for these guys. Because it looks like they had something good. And with how successful Dead by Daylight is, they could have had something like that. But instead, we get the unceremonious shutting down, essentially, of Friday the 13th. To their credit, they're still going to let people play it. It's just not on dedicated servers.
Still buy it. Still peer-to-peer. So,
it is going to be available for sale still, but just don't, peer-to-peer only. So
maybe there'll be a magic trick, and all of a sudden this lawsuit will find its way to wrap up, and they can actually go back to working on the video game that they wanted to make this whole time. But I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah.
All right, we don't know.
Thus ends the sad story. Thus ends the tragedy of Friday the 13th, the game.
Yep.
David, this next story, I deleted the next story actually, but this next story that's here now, we're running short on time because I said it might be a fast show and now we're fucking 50 minutes in. This next story kind of deals with stuff that you enjoy, so I'm going to let you take on this one here.
All right. Codemasters, a company that makes a whole lot of racing video games, has reached an agreement with Take-Two and expects sale to complete early next year in a story from Video Games Chronicle. Codemasters of, Dirt and F1 and Grid and all those other racing games.
I will always remember that as the Colin McRae guys and the Micro Machines Nintendo game.
I mean, Colin McRae just turned into Dirt, so yeah. Have reached a formal agreement with Take-Two on the terms of its sale. In a cash and shares offer, which values the UK-based racing game firm at around £750 million or 980 million American dollars.
In real monies.
Sure. In a note sent to investors on Tuesday, the two companies said they anticipate that the acquisition will compete in the first quarter of 2021, subject to shareholder approval in an upcoming general meeting. Following the deal's completion, Codemasters will run within Take-Two's 2K label under its existing leadership of CEO Frank Sagnier, CFO Rashid Varashia, and the rest of its senior management team. Codemasters is the UK-based publisher, racing games including Dirt, F1, Grid, Onrush. They recently secured the rights to the FIA World Rally Championship, so that WRC game is also them. And in 2019, they acquired Slightly Mad, who are the guys that made Project Cars and Fast and Furious Crossroads.
David, it sounds like 2K, or Take-Two rather, is buying the company that makes every single racing game out there other than Gran Turismo. How does that make you feel? Because you're the racing guy.
There's a lot of games that aren't these games, but I understand what you're saying. To me, this makes me less interested in future Codemasters games.
Okay.
I'm
Any particular reason why?
I'm not a huge Take-Two fan.
All right.
I like a good racing game. Dirt Rally 2 is one of my damn favorites. I love the hell out of that game. And I don't know. Project Cars makes me sad. Project Cars 3 shouldn't exist. They should have just kept working on the second one, or hell, they should have just kept working on the first one. So I don't want to get too into that. But I just don't trust Take-Two to manage them in a good direction. And I kind of liked them being their own thing and making games.
Codemasters always. I said they make every racing game, but essentially, when I saw Codemasters, to use THQ as an example again, I always thought a B tier racing game. It wasn't going to be Forza and it wasn't going to be Gran Turismo, but they always made solid product for the budgets they had to work in.
Yeah, I mean the dirt games remain popular. I heard the 5th one is good but a little buggy. I like the new F1 game. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the dirt rally games. I haven't played WRC yet. I like the first 2 Project Cars.
And you just don't think Take-Two is going to do good by them?
I think that Take-Two is going to make them very paradoxy.
Paradox, the studio that makes like Stellaris and Hearts of Iron?
Yes.
Okay.
Games that are good.
Oh, good, I see exactly what you mean by that.
What is the big bugaboo that we have with Paradox video games?
Their DLC policy. So they're going to be like, here's Dirt. And if you want this brand of cars, you can pay $5.99 to get the, I don't know, whatever car pack this is. And then another $15.99 for this car pack. And then $20 for this car pack. Because Paradox games love their DLC. I see what you mean now, because these racing games can be easily exploited in the same way, where they go, yep. If you want the Ford pack, $10 to get all these Ford cars. And if you want the Aston Martin pack, here's $10 for all these cars. I can already see the DLC plans, and I now get why you might have a problem with this.
That's my exact worry. Is just it's going to turn into a madhouse of DLC. That being said, Codemasters isn't a stranger to doing DLC, but I'm just worried it's going to be much more aggressive than it already is. And yeah, Wilson Score, you got it. Racing games already have a lot of DLC. I'm just worried. Take-Two are the flipping Rockstar guys, right? They're the guys that have been printing shark cards to have the best-selling game of every single year for the last 12 years.
Let's see.
Because of add-on purchases.
It specs us out. The Dirt Series number 2 was my favorite. What are they at now?
5 is the one coming out for this new gen.
Okay, fair enough. Mario Kart even had this type of DLC with the Mercedes DLC. The thing is that, though, that Mercedes car was actually included in the base game. I use that Mercedes car Mario Kart all the time. I never paid for it.
But did you play it on Wii U?
No.
I think it was
DLC
on
shit. Wii U. I didn't even think about that. I forgot The Wii U is so forgettable to me because I never had one. That like for example, they just
please keep in mind that you were playing the definitive version of Mario Kart. That is not a new video game. That is an old video game.
I forgot about that. Like Pikmin 3 just came out. I was like, oh shit, a new Pikmin, forgetting that it came out years ago on the Wii U. Which is why I support Nintendo porting everything from the Wii U to the Switch, because I didn't play any of it. David, we have one final story to talk about today, and this is a little bit of schadenfreude here. Square Enix reports a $48 million loss following the release of the underperforming Marvel's Avengers. This is via PC Gamer. Driven by weak sales of Marvel Avengers, Square Enix posted an operating loss in its HD Games segment of more than 5 billion yen, or $48 million, for the second quarter of the current financial year. Square Enix's HD Games division is responsible for its big game releases, but it's not its MMO or mobile games. Those are two separate divisions. Despite the losses, the HD Games division did do more business in both quarters of 2020 than comparable periods in 2019, because they really didn't release anything last year. Square Enix has reported sales numbers, Square Enix has not reported sales numbers, and remember one of the GamePoints maxims, if they don't talk about numbers, it's bad. Though the Tokyo-based game industry analyst David Gibson said in a tweet that sales volumes were lower than Square Enix had planned, something like 60% of the expected total. Fucking ouch. Gibson further noted that based on Square Enix reported numbers, the game likely cost upwards of $170 million to make, which is very high for a video game. And I don't know if that number counts how much they had to pay for the license. I'm pretty goddamn sure it doesn't count for marketing. Square Enix is eating a lot of shit on Marvel Avengers because that game is essentially Anthem 2.0, but Anthem still has the zeitgeist of being Anthem. People today don't even remember Marvel Avengers came out other than show because I just like kicking a horse when it's dead.
I mean, we kicked Anthem for a damn long time, so this is just our new yearly thing, right? We'll talk about this game until February, till something else flops hella bad.
God damn, yeah, there'll be another big live service game that will be the target of our ire.
It's really unfortunate that this game couldn't deliver, right? Because
how do you fuck up a game that has the Avengers attached to it?
Well, it's the pandemic year, right? We don't have any Marvel movies this year.
Yeah.
Just period. We are in a Marvel drought after 17 years of nonstop Marvel action. They could have made it work, and I still feel like a lot of people are turned off by the whole Uncanny Valley, not quite them, you caught their stunt doubles-ness of it all.
Yeah, that bothers me. It reminds me of that scene from Scott Pilgrim when he's fighting Lucas Lee, and then he turns around and it's a stunt double. It looks like that.
Oh,
it's
I legit made a Spaceballs reference, and you just didn't.
Oh, shit.
No,
I'm so upset about that. You're right.
I was like, wow, I like how you referenced a newer movie when I threw you Spaceballs. What an ass.
God damn
it. Anyway, I think that this game could have either leaned more into the Marvel Cinematic license, or if they wanted to stay away from it, they should have actually gotten even further away from it and gotten to a more almost like
go full comic book
style.
With it.
Go comic book with it.
You know what I would have loved to see?
More over the top with it.
If they actually went either like full Spider-Verse, like into the Spider-Verse animation style with it, or go 90s X-Men look with it.
Yeah, why not?
Like actually like
if you're trying to be your own thing, be your own thing. Don't do this. We're sort of realistic, but not really. And this just kind of looks like a skin on top of the Division with superpowers.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I would love to actually see a comic book game that's like this, that looks like Borderlands, with an actual comic book style to it. I want like
that would be awesome. Yeah. I'd play the hell out of that game. Also, if you're going to lean into Marvel, start using. I mean, I know Kamala Khan's in it, right? But I think she's supposedly showing up in the MCU at some point in the near future.
I don't know.
Give me all the Marvel stuff that I didn't get from the movies.
Yeah, what they do is they use her as like the new fish kind of thing to introduce us to all the older characters.
Or, hear me out, just put the damn X-Men in it already. Like, I don't care that it's called Marvel.
That's an entire different legal fight, but I don't blame them for that.
No, it's not. It's all owned by one guy now. They have the ability. Just call the guy in that other studio and say, hey, can we borrow this thing so we can make all of the money? And the guy will say, all the money? We'd love all the money.
All I know is that Deus Ex died for this fucking game, and it cost Square Enix a $48 million loss this quarter.
Yep.
So in the end, Adam Jensen wins.
If the numbers track out that way, that means the game sold about 3 million copies.
Yeah, and it was the top-selling game of September. I do remember we mentioned that. It was the top-selling game of September, which just, to me, shows that September was a very weak month.
Yeah, I was going to say, what else came out in September?
Well, everything got delayed. Because I think wasn't that the original? No, it wasn't. I don't know. Nothing really came out in September. I can tell you
I just know that this game has like a third of the sales of Division 2.
Jesus Christ, David.
And as cool as that game is, who plays that game compared to like Destiny and stuff?
The live service thing we've talked about to death, and people just don't have live services. Require one currency people cannot get more of, and that is time. Mm-hmm. And people are already overdrawn on their time. They cannot give any more to buy these games. They can give more cash, but they cannot give more time than they already are maxed out on. This is a lesson that video games will learn sooner or later. But I still expect one or two more giant disasters like Anthem or Avengers to come along. Probably at the beginning of the next year. We'll have to see. In the meantime, as I'm waiting for the next schadenfreude moment as a company eats shit on some disastrous live service scheme that they are going to roll out, what can I do to keep myself occupied?
Okay, so new releases. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, this is a new console release week, so I've got a lot of shit to tell you about. Luckily, it's the weirdest new console launch ever, so I actually don't have that much stuff to talk to you about. First up this week on the list, Proteus hits early access on PC and Mac. I like starting out with this one because this game actually looks rad. This is that retro FPS. Very much looks like
strong Dusk vibes.
Dusk vibes. It's definitely like that Doom, Quake, old school FPS vibe, but it looks retro, but it's built with new tech, and I've heard it's got a bunch of different rendering modes. I don't know, it just looks fun. I like these kinds of games, so enjoy it. If
one thing to point out before we get too deep into this list is that next gen ports are not going to be talked about. So we're not going to talk about Watch Dogs Legion coming to PlayStation 5 or X, but we talked about that. That game is already released.
Yeah, I've already talked about the release date, then I'm not going to talk about it again. 13 hits PS4, Xbox One, and PC this week. Keep in mind that 13 already hit PC when that game came out originally back in the, PS3, Xbox 360 era. 13 was a very stylish, cel-shaded FPS game from the early 2000s that I thought was pretty decent. Great. I liked that game well enough, but I have heard rumblings that the remaster is very bad.
It's not a remaster, it's a remake. From what I understand.
Remake. Anyway, I've heard whatever this is bad, and from what I was reading, you're better off playing the original version with mods.
That is ungoddamn fortunate.
I could be wrong, so please keep an eye on this game for the next couple weeks to see if we get patches, but from what I'm reading, I wouldn't pick it up today.
That is real unfortunate, because I loved 13. They did like that 1960s Batman thing, where when you would kill someone, it would be like whip,
bang,
yeah.
Pow. Yeah,
it was so stylistic. I loved the original 13. That sucks to hear that this is doing bad.
Also out this week, Destiny 2's big expansion, Beyond Light, finally hits PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Bye all of the old Destiny content. People are probably very excited about this, and if you didn't manage to get all the old stuff from before this launch, well, you're screwed, because they pulled out a bunch of content and a bunch of planets, and Beyond Light is the way it is now. I heard the new player experience is a whole new thing, bunch of new weapons, bunch of new content, all kinds of fancy new stuff, and I think like a 60 gig install on PC.
Yeah, they a couple things for this. One, you're not screwed if you missed out the old content, because they're going to be doing like a revolving door thing, where it's like this month this
40 gigs,
planet is now up. The next month, this old planet's up. They have like a rotating vault.
Mm-hmm.
Really looking forward to getting a hold of this. I'm glad that the fucking plot has finally advanced in Destiny.
I'm just excited because I didn't want to play Destiny really all summer, because I don't want to farm for items that are just going to be screwed by this patch and they're not going to be able to hit the light cap. And I know we're getting weird Destiny, but I don't know. I was more excited for this new content than replaying all this.
Yeah, I'll probably be fiddling around this tonight. Did you see what the final event for the game was, by the way?
Nope. I actually have been specifically avoiding things. So
okay. So do you want me not even to mention it?
Yeah, I'm just going to play Destiny and we'll be fine.
Okay. Fair enough.
In other news, Tetris Effect Connected hits Xbox One, Xbox Series X. This is Tetris Effect again, which came out a while ago. It's the best damn way to play Tetris, but with all new co-op and competitive online and local multiplayer modes added for the Xbox version only. Planet Coaster Console Edition hits PS4 and Xbox One. This is that, I think at this point, a few years old console theme park sim.
Planet Coaster. It is the successor to Roller Coaster
Tycoon. Yeah. That being said, game's super fun. If you're into the simness of it all, I think Planet Coaster is pretty dang fun. And now you can play it on console. Yakuza Like a Dragon hits PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC. In Japan, I think they just called this here Yakuza 7, but the key difference between this and one of the mainline Yakuza games is this is not a traditional action beat-em-up game. Yes, you have your legendary bat and you're cracking underworld scrolls in a dynamic RPG set against the backdrop of modern-day Japan. I actually like that they called it something else, because I feel like this game could tick off a lot of people if they just called it Yakuza 7.
Funny thing, Like a Dragon is what the Yakuza series is actually called in Japan.
Hey man, Bioshock, Resident Evil.
It's a Resident Evil Bioshock, Biohazard thing.
Oh, thank you. Fuser hits PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC from the creators of Rock Band and Dance Central. If you've never heard of Harmonix, welcome to Fuser, a non-stop digital music festival where you control the music and share it with the world. Do you remember that Harmonix card game that came out just a couple years ago?
No.
Where you could like play cards, it would make like live mixes of songs.
No, I don't remember this.
Anybody?
At all.
Anyway, Harmonix made a card game. It was pretty fun. now they've turned that format into an online rhythm game.
Hmm.
Which also looks pretty fun. The Falconeer hits Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC. This is an open-world air combat game that I feel like you would play just because it's all about aerial dogfights.
I love me an aerial dogfight. In fact, I saw a new trailer for Project Wingman out today. Boy, am I excited.
This is dogfights starring some big-ass birds. So get down on that. The Assassin's Creed Valhalla game is also out. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC. This is the new one. It's even more RPG-like. It's got Vikings. It's not on Steam because Ubisoft is all about Epic at this point and Uplay. And fun fact that I wanted to talk about, I've heard that this game is poorly optimized on PC to the point that even if you're running one of the new badass i9 processors and an RTX 3090, you cannot get 60 FPS in 4K in this video game. Period.
Well, this game was already on the fence for me because I already have so much shit coming out over the next couple of weeks.
You can have the baddest of badass computers, and you will maybe have some frame rate issues.
That certainly seals the deal for me if that's the case. Because there's nothing that infuriates me more than a piss-poor optimized PC port.
I mean, it's Ubisoft. The one constant I think has always been that I can make fun of a Ubisoft game every year for having a bad PC port. That being said, they usually will come around and it will end up being good, but still, just to let you guys know, keep an eye on it. I think the recommended spec for this game is like a 2080 Super, so I'm not touching it.
Wait, recommended?
Pretty sure. As far as things that actually work. Anyway, keep it going.
It's a 2080. I heard that right.
Yeah.
Fuck right off. I'm still playing through Sekiro. I'm fine.
You'll be fine. Observer System Redo hits Series X, PC, and PS5. Observer, a game we talked about a little bit, is pretty cool. Kind of spooky atmosphere horror game, and we've got not really an upgrade to it because this game's only 2 or 3 years old. It's got new side cases. It's got expanded gameplay, new mechanics, new secrets.
I would look at this as like a director's cut.
Quality of life improvements, but it also has a 4K texture resolution patch. So some new textures, a few new animations, some new models and effects, and the addition of ray tracing and HDR support. So
ray tracing, big thing these days.
Yep. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin hits PS4, Switch, and PC. This is a side-scrolling farming sim, according to the tags. Hordes of demons in a side-scrolling combat to reclaim the land of Sakuna, a spoiled harvest goddess banished to a dangerous island. Then return to your village and tend a field full of glorious rice. I don't know. It gives me Dark Cloud vibes. It gives me Dark Cloud as a side-scroller vibes. Anything? Slide Stars hits PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. This game seems really weird to me. I looked at the trailer and it legitimately doesn't have sound on Steam. Like, it just doesn't have sound. They forgot to put sound in the trailer. And it looks like a weird budget version of a Trials game, where instead of being on a motorbike, you're on a water slide.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe it's fun. Just Dance 2021, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Switch. It's the new one. If you've never heard of it, you probably don't care. And if you've heard of it, you know whether or not you want it. The Pathless hits PS5, PS4, and PC. This is the game from the Abzu team that I think I was probably the most excited for from that original PS5 video.
This does look good.
This is the adventure game about the archer and the eagle exploring a large forest. Give me serious flower journey vibes. Sackboy Big Adventure is also PS5, 3D multiplayer platforming game. Demon's Souls Remake hits PS5. I know you're going to play this.
I'm likely going to be streaming this.
It's that big game again.
Yeah, I should have this by sometime next week, assuming that I don't get screwed, but we'll see.
Anyway, trying to lightning round this, but anyway, I was just going to say Demon's Souls is like the father of the Souls games. Some people say it's Kingsfield, but let's be real. No one gave a shit about Kingsfield. Demon's Souls is the one that started it. Godfall hits PS5 and PC on the Epic Store. This is that looter slasher. I hope it's good. That's all I'll say. Overcooked.
I want to play this, but I am not spending $60 on it.
I hope it's good. Overcooked All You Can Eat hits PS5. This is Overcooked 1 and 2, and all the additional content, DLC, blended together, remastered in this definitive edition. Spider-Man Miles Morales hits PS5 and PS4. From what I'm hearing, it is good, much like the other Spider-Man game, but it's closer to Spider-Man 1.5 than Spider-Man 2. Too big to be DLC, not quite big enough to stand on its own 2 feet, but still really, really damn good and beautiful.
Sony's been doing that lately. They did it with Infamous with their First Light. They did it with Lost Legacy on Uncharted. They had that Last of Us, what was it? The first Last of Us game that was kind of like the prequel that shows how.
Man, you don't get how lightning rounds work at all.
No, not at
all. No, anyway, it looks good. Bugsnax hits PS5, PS4, and PC.
I really want to play this.
This is the weirdest looking game that was shown off for Sony. You're solving mysteries on an island. There's these weird little food-based critters that you can like capture and eat, and you don't know what they are, and there's some weird stuff going on.
They're Bugsnax.
Get your Bugsnax on you. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory hits PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Don't worry, this is not a mainline or numbered Kingdom Hearts game with a weird name. This is the Kingdom Hearts rhythm action game. So if you don't like rhythm games, you don't need to play this Kingdom Hearts. And finally, Call of Duty Blops Cold War, PS4, PS5s, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC. The new Call of Duty. It's the new one. It's a new year. This is the Treyarch one. I'm not playing. It is 180 gigabit install on all consoles.
I completely.
So if you're buying a brand new Xbox or a brand new PlayStation, you are going to use up
a
third or a quarter of your hard drive, respectively.
David, that does it for new releases, which means that does it for the end of the show as well. This has been GamePoints 240, and thank you all for showing up. We do stream here live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. And if you can join us live, we do appreciate it. Much like Wilson's Corner, Introspect, I think I saw BVS in here earlier, see Reaper, all of you good friends out there as well. If you can't join us live, however, you can also catch an old episode of the show over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC. Regardless of where you're at, and if you want to support the stream, you guys know what to do. Bits, follows, notifications turned on, subs, all that good stuff. You can follow the show on Twitter at GamePointsPC, myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21, and David Smith over there at Palshife_Satori. We'll be back Wednesday and Thursday with various games to be streamed, maybe do some Hearts of Iron, maybe play some of the new stuff that came out. You know, weird, right? Playing stuff that's topical. We'll see. And of course, we'll be back next Tuesday with, I'm sure, everyone's first impressions and horror stories of trying to get these consoles in. Until then, though, you all take care, stay safe, and we're out of here.